Hello everyone, doing something a little bit different this time. As you can see, like the recording is a little bit different. I'm doing this on my phone, because I wanted to show you guys now for a little bit about building PCs. So without any further ado, okay, so here we go. Now first off, it's worth mentioning, I have a Evo case here. It's from Coolmaster. What it is, there's these big screws on the back. Now I've mistakenly fastened them with a screwdriver, so they're not going to be coming loose. So I probably won't be taking it off. But as you can see, you know, all the hookups in the back, which that's typical. But if you get inside to the side here, you can see the airflow, you can see the motherboard. Well, not the motherboard. Well, yeah, you can see the motherboard, but you can also see the graphics card right there. So it's not too hard to figure out where a graphics card will go. You just want to make sure you put it in the first slot. There's 3 slots. Well, different motherboards have a different amount of slots, but you always want to put it in the slot closest to the CPU, because that'll be your primary slot, which that will have it'll have at least a 16 times PCI, which is what mine has. The second slot for mine, which is 8 PCI, so it's a little bit slower, but it's still just as good. Now, as far as like the wire hookups go for your motherboard into your, well, I should say your as far as it goes to hooking up to your power supply, there we go. It's actually kind of nice to have a fully modular one, because if you have a fully modular power supply, you could pick and choose which cables you use. Sorry about that. Because if you use a power supply that has no modular, you have all the cables together, and you have no choice of how many cables are actually going into your PC. So as you can see, my cables are actually tied back and away from my motherboard. They're tied back and away from my graphics card, and it works pretty good. And a nice thing about recording this is my graphics card actually lights up, so it's actually able to show you guys a little bit of the video of what it looks like even without it. Now if you guys want a more in-depth where I take it apart and really get into showing you guys, I can do that. You just gotta let me know what you guys want to see, and then we can go from there. Now up top here, you kind of can't see certain features so much. That's mostly because the grate is a little bit smaller here. Because it is the top of the grate, they want to make sure a lot of stuff can't get down and inside. But as you can see right here, you can see my CPU fan actually. Which the CPU fan I have is rather big. It is one of those that is not a liquid coolant, so that's why it's a little bit bigger. Well, not so much just that, it's also the factor of the liquid coolant ones. They tend to be pretty small, because theirs are cooled a little bit differently, whereas this one, as you can see it, right there's one of the fans, but if you go over here, right here is a coolant, well, a heat tower, and on the other side of that one is another heat tower. And then on the other side of that, like right in here, you can see it a little bit right in here, there's another fan. And those fans all plug into the motherboard, because well, if your motherboard doesn't have it, there is a splicer where you can plug both of those into that splicer and plug it into one CPU fan port. Or if you have one like mine, you can just plug them both in individually. I like having them both individual because it's hard to say, you know, which tower is going to need which more to cool down the heat. But otherwise, you can see the Strix logo there a little bit. The fan kind of blocks it off a little bit, but it is important you know, before you go to install a fan like this, there you can see it a little bit. This was a Phanteks one, and it is a little bit bigger. You can see my RAM in there, but the problem with this is the RAM has to be in before you install the fan. There is no choice, because if you were to put the fan in first, I'd only be able to get 3 of my RAM sticks in versus all 4. So you got to keep that in mind before you go and do that. And also, since it is kind of close to the graphics card, as you can see here, it's not too close, and honestly, I thought this would have an effect on my graphics card's heat temperatures, but actually it does, but not in the way you would think. Because that heat tower that's, well, right here, is actually not blowing heat out this way. Even though there's fans pulling air and going this way, you know, the heat is actually coming from, well, the cool air is coming from this side and then traveling this way. But it's actually not affecting my graphics card in a negative manner. I originally had one of those stock fans, which this fan just blows the hot air everywhere. And by doing that, it actually was heating up my graphics card faster. This one is not. This one, my graphics card stays at about 50 to 55 degrees Celsius. So that's actually a lot cooler than the traditional 67 degrees Celsius I was usually running at with the old fan. So this actually greatly decreases everything in there. I think that's about it actually for this. I mean, you do see the fan back there. That is actually one that was built into the case. There's 2 fans up front here. You can't see them very well because of the grate. Got a little bit of cat fur there. But those 2 were built into the fan. They came with the case. So that actually all came together with the case. And the nice thing about these cases is, get it back over this way now. Now you can probably see it a little bit, but you can see that there is a tray. Yeah, you can see it a little bit there. There's a tray. If you look right above my finger there, you can see the black for the tray. That tray actually comes out, and underneath that is where you have your power supply and your hard drives, or hard drive, or SSD. So that's where that all comes, and then the wires from mine all come up the front and loop around. It's actually very handy. Now, when saying about the front, okay, these slots here are actually for like your optical drive and stuff like that. So if you look in, all you see is darkness, because, well, it's too dark in there to see anything. Then you have your different ports on the front. You even have SSD drive. Of course, oh yeah, they are USB 3s on the front. Look at that. In this case, it even comes with USB 3 on the front. And then over here, this is where the hard drives actually go in. And that actually, as you can see, they actually have a way to allow air in also. They have all these little vents, which obviously I need to clean mine out a little bit there. But yeah, so they go in quite nicely. Overall, if you do make a computer, I would actually suggest getting a box-like case. Now, I like this case personally because there's a lot of airflow, there's a lot of air capability to it. So there is definitely room for expansion. I see, like, with all this side room over here, and with this grate here, my CPU fan is pulling air from through this. So it's actually on the other side, it's pulling the air through that. But yeah, I wanted to show you guys a little bit of this, and then, of course, you know, you got the stuff up top. You know, you got the dual monitors, the thing for the Oculus, the camera, keyboard, which again needs cleaned off a little bit, and a few other things sitting around on the desk. The headset, mouse pad, you know, all that good stuff. Which the peripherals don't matter as much. And if you do, like, these are only HD monitors. They're really good monitors. So if you do only have an HD monitor and your graphics card does not support having that much HD, because I actually had to do this myself. My graphics card only had a regular HDMI for one thing. So that's what the Oculus is plugged into, because, well, you can't really get an adaptive port otherwise. So I got 2 adapter ports for an HDMI 2 and a DVI-D, I believe it is, to plug into my monitors, which is actually the same thing. So if anybody tells you, oh, well, don't use those cables because they'll burn out fast, it's like, not really. It's just that the HDMI 2 can display at a much higher resolution, and so you're not getting the full effect. That's all. And then the DVI-D is essentially HDMI. So you're not getting much of a difference. But that'll do it for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time. Later, guys.